My next guest says it could lower crop prices in the short term and could hurt farmers who need open markets to offload their supplies. Let's bring in Matt Carson, CEO of Landus. They're a co-op representing 5,000 Midwest farmers. Matt, we last spoke during the election. Welcome back.
Thanks, Kelly. Nice to be here.
So 15% tariffs on, I think, corn, 10% on soybeans. Those go into effect next week. Why would that dampen prices for now?
Well, obviously, for our American farmers, there's a big need to find markets. And in the case of corn, that's about 20% on any given year that we export to other countries. On soybeans, it can reach as high as 50% of our production that goes to other markets. So this really creates an interesting dynamic that puts a lot of pressure on what's going on right now. And although I want to say our farmers understand that this administration is playing a long game and working on something that's hopefully really good, I'm sure will be for America. But in the short term, we do have to deal with these changes in markets and what that really means to the opportunity for our farmers to get the most for their commodities that they need so much right now.
Yeah, so in other words, it could benefit consumers because the stuff has to it's kind of being flooded with product in the U.S. If it's a little bit more expensive to export it, then we get cheaper soybeans and we get cheaper corn. But the farmers potentially lose that business. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a balance that comes into play there. But for us, being farmer owned, it's about what we have to do for these farmers. And they're dealing with prices that continue to escalate on what they do on the input side and what they're doing with cost of fuels and so on. So we have to make sure that we always create the best market for them. And it appears we've got to really button down and do the things both at the farm and in agribusiness to weather this storm and be more lean and powerful to weather through this. Focused, as President Trump cited yesterday, really focused on our market right here in the U.S., which still takes away a big chunk for corn, soybeans, wheat, and other commodities as well.
You said a lot of your members support the president's efforts here, kind of see the long run. What is the long run? Like, what do you think that looks like for U.S. agricultural markets in the next, let's give 2, 3, 4 years, kind of by the end of the term he's in?
Well, I think all of us would hope in agriculture, especially our farmers, Kelly, is that we open up more opportunities for exports. And after this is done, we find a way to balance this and get a give and take that allows more markets to open back up even as this settles out and all the negotiations and the back and forth happen. So ultimately, that would be the long game for agriculture. And then we're all Americans and want to see what's best for America as well. And we need to help be a part of that, but balance that with what goes on in agriculture. As agriculture, as you know, and all of your listeners do, viewers, that this is about feeding and fueling and clothing the world. And we have to do that here as a mainstay for our farmers and agriculture.
We're reminded that during his first term, the president struck a deal with China that would require them to buy a lot more of U.S. supplies. I believe agricultural supplies were part of that. But my recollection is that they didn't really follow through on that. Can you tell us what happened during the first term and kind of how the markets overall stand now relative to then?
Well, I think there were negotiations. Even USMCA was a part of that, as you recall. So, each country has to play their cards. And even though deals get negotiated, things can change. Other things become factors. And ultimately for agriculture, not just our farmers, Kelly, but for agribusiness, we have to control our destiny here. And so we've got to be thinking about what does this look like when it opens back up? What do we need to do in the short term to weather the storm and become lean and mean in the way that we manage expenses and how we serve that agriculture base to continue to do what we can. So, these, as I said, and I'm not the expert of this at all, but I can only imagine the complexity of negotiating some of these things with countries like China, like Mexico, like Canada. Yeah. And they are hard, and we have to understand it, but we've got to also look forward here as to what does agriculture have to do short and long term to win that, and watch closely to the tactics that are being employed by this administration, and Secretary Rollins included in that.